What's going on, friends? Julie here. Welcome to the Julie's Paint Party YouTube channel, where I believe that you do not have to break the bank to learn how to paint. I only use very simple supplies from the dollar store to make beautiful paintings, and I just love teaching painting so much. So if you found me, thanks for being here. I totally appreciate you. Today we're going to tackle just a really short, simple, kind of like a summery painting with some silhouetted birds, something really quick where you can get your jujus out and you don't have to be in it for a long time. We're here for a good time, not a long time. So I'm going to show you what I have going on behind my face here, and you can grab a few supplies and get started. So I'm just working on this really little 8x10 canvas board today. If we want to keep our painting short, the smaller the better. You're more than welcome to do this on a bigger canvas as well. As far as paints are concerned, I chose 4 simple colors that I thought were summery. So I have my pink and my yellow, which are super duper summery, and then I have my white for nice highlights, and I have some black for any silhouettes or any, maybe I want to mix it in with some pink to make like a darker pink for my sky. You know what? I'm winging it, so let's just see. I have my holy trifecta of brushes. So these are the 3 brushes I use the most out of all of the brushes that I have. So I have my 3/4 inch to 1 inch Fatty McFatterson flathead brush. I have my 1/2 inch flathead brush, which I call my medium flathead brush. And I have a nice long liner brush here that's been through the ringer, but these are supplies that I've just used so much, and I don't like to throw things away, so I just keep them around until they die. Anyways, if you enjoyed today's tutorial, and if you're ever looking for somebody to host a paint party for you, I'd love you to consider my services. You can find out all about it at juliespaintparty.com. I host virtual events, in-person parties, team building, birthday parties, bachelorette parties. I love coming to you and teaching, or we can even hop on virtual with anybody that you have around the world that can be together at the same time. All right, so grab those supplies and let's get this party started. So I'm just gonna get a little each color on my palette here, and we're working on a really small space and we're painting from home, so honestly you do not need a whole lot of paints. I'm on my N's of my pink here, obviously, but just a little of each color. And I will say, you know, if you're inspired by adding any other colors onto your palette, please do. Don't let me hold you back. You can totally like throw some purple or some orange in there. I'm just trying to keep it really simple today, so I just kept it to 4 colors. So I'm going to start at the bottom and just kind of work my way up. And I kind of have in my head that it's going to be either like a sunrisey or a sunsetty painting. So whenever there's like a sunrise or a sunset, it's usually a little darker along the horizon and it gets a little lighter. And that's actually not true. If it's a sunset, it's usually a little darker at the top and it gets lighter towards the bottom. If it's a sunrise, it's gonna, yeah, you know what? It's always gonna be a little lighter down here. So never mind, my perception is completely off. So anyways, I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna grab a little pink and white with my brush, and I'm just gonna get the flow started by just going back and forth. So I have my big brush. I grabbed a little scoop of pink and a little scoop of white, and I'm just kind of going back and forth right now. And I'm going to start to make an arc. So I'm going to start to bring my brush strokes back and forth like this. And I find, especially when we're using dollar store supplies, sometimes our paints can be a little bit transparent and not super like opaque and great the first time around. So I like to keep my brush strokes pretty long. So as I'm moving up, I'm going from one side of the canvas over to the other. I'm not stopping. I get these weird brush stroke marks when I stop. So I'm going to pet those out, and I'm just going to move it on up to the top. Now, I have this idea that I want to include some black and pink together, so I'm going to make a little color in the middle here to see if I can incorporate that into my painting. Take a little pink and black, mix it together. Ooh, yeah, it makes kind of like a deep purple color that I kind of love. Maybe a little more pink, but kind of love that. So I'm going to use this at random in my painting, so I'm just going to go for it now. So as we are kind of cruising up our canvas here, I'm just going to alternate my colors totally at random. And just remember that the more you go back and forth with your brush, back and forth, the more your colors are going to blend together. So when I want to start adding some yellow in there, I'm just going to take some yellow and I'm going to go back and forth until the two colors come together. So it means that I'm kind of like, I'm moving up and I'm moving down and just bringing the two colors in harmonious unison. And I'm just going to continue working my way up the canvas. So I have this like nice little kind of blending of my pink and yellow going on. And I love just continuing to kind of move up and down and letting these colors make their way up the canvas. So again, I'm going to continue up without stopping, can't stop, won't stop. I'm going to start to bring in a little white and a little more pink too. And honestly, it doesn't matter. If the colors look pretty together, that's all that matters. So if you have, I don't know, if you decided to grab some purple or some blue maybe. If you decide to add any blue, keep the blue and pink together. Unless you want green, and then if you mix your blue and yellow together, obviously you're gonna make green. So if you don't want any green, maybe steer clear. And then I'm gonna start to move this nice mixed color up here as well. So got a little bit of everything going on. Let's see here. Kind of want to finish off with this purple color, so I'm just going to make a little bit more. Up at the top here. And I'm going to start just kind of bringing my brush back and forth, back down my canvas. So this is not only going to continue to help blend my colors together, but it's also going to help dry my paints as well. So I'll go down and then I'm going to go back up and just move my paint side to side. Up, up, up. Okay. And you know what? I feel like that looks really pretty. Now, this does not have to be the end all be all. So what we can do is we can just wait 2 minutes for our canvas to dry. And once your canvas is dry, you can decide if you want to add any extra colors in there. So let's give our canvas 1 minute to dry. If you have a hair dryer, you're more than welcome to zing your hair dryer. But I'm thinking maybe I want to do one more coat on here to really bring it home. Fantastic, my friends. So I think I made the right decision. Now, it's really, whatever surface we're working on, it's always going to be a little bit different. Canvas boards can have a particular way of they don't absorb as easily as a regular canvas or watercolor paper for that instance. And then you can see here, this first coat, it's really doesn't have a whole lot of substance to it. We have beautiful colors, but you can see a lot of the canvas holes still poking through there, a lot of the grains of my brush strokes. And I feel like if we just did one more coat of paint, it's going to make all the difference in how vibrant it looks. And that's just something that we have to deal with if we're going to decide to use dollar store paints. And that took what, like 3 minutes? So let's take 3 more minutes to do another coat of paint. First thing I'm going to do, I'm actually going to make that that purpley color again. So I'm going to grab some of my pink here, grab some black, and do a little mix. Ooh. You know what? I'm actually just going to dump a little bit of pink in here because I need regular pink for my painting. So, okay. Now I might switch up the way I put my colors on this time. So I can see here, so I have this really bright yellow in the middle, but I feel like I want to just incorporate it more into the entire painting. I'm not sure I love the fact that it's just yellow in the middle. So I'm going to start, since I have this deeper purple on my color, a deeper purple color on my paintbrush, I'm going to start at the bottom with that color and just kind of wipe it off. A lot of the bottom is going to be covered up by some grassies and some dark land, so I'm not too worried about it. I'm just going to start with that since it's on my brush. And then go into the pink. And we can really like alternate any of the colors at any time. So we got some pinks. We grab a little bit of white and lighten that up. Grab a little yellow too. Yellow, pink, white, pink, yellow. All sorts of different vibes here. Now, it doesn't have to look really stripy. So what ends up happening, we take one color, we put it on, we take another color. So we get these stripes, right? We have pink stripe, white stripe, yellow stripe, pink stripe. And that's totally okay. But sometimes I like to be a little bit more sporadic than that. So I'll bring in colors from the side. So if I want a little yellow, I can just like pop it in here. And it doesn't have to be the whole way across. Or if I want to brighten up my pink over here, I can just pop a little white in there. So just coming in from the side, just adding in the colors at random if it's starting to look a little too stripy. Honestly, friend, I'm serious about this. Like, just follow your heart. If all the colors mix well together, then it doesn't really matter what, which way, what order you put them on your canvas. It's really like just a true tale of the heart. And we're just kind of going back and forth. And that's where we find our peace, right? We find our peace in those moments where we're kind of just shoo, 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 really shooshing our brush back and forth, finding that flow. So I'm still just want to get in the corner in that same kind of direction, but obviously we're going to get cut off by the top of our canvas, so that's okay. All right, so honestly, like, so much better, right? Like, we have all these different colors happening. It looks so much more vibrant now that we put that second coat of paint on there. Way nicer, way nicer. And like I was saying, you know, if you see those stripes, that's not a bad thing. I'm just saying it's kind of nice to break it up a little bit. So I have this big pink stripe in the middle here. I can just take a tiny little tap of yellow and just, you know, break it up a little bit. Make it a little bit more unique, a little bit more standout-ish. And we did darken it up at the top, but if you really want it to be nice and dramatic, with the side of caution, we can add a little bit of black into the corner, okay? So when I mean little, I mean little. So tiny, tiny, tiny little pop of black. And even that, I'm going to tap on my palette first, just because it likes to take over. And I'm going to throw it down in this corner here. And a little in this corner over here. And the more I bring my brush back and forth, the more it'll just blend in with the colors that are already there. It just gives it like a little bit more drama. So I'm just going to pull it across just a little bit. And what it does, it just darkens that color that we already have. Now, if you throw down some black on there and it takes over everything, just stop, give your brush a rinse, and with a clean brush without any paint on it, just move that black back and forth until it kind of comes down a notch, because it really has the opportunity to take over everything. Truly does. All right, there we go. All right, well, I'm gonna let this dry for just a minute, and then when we come back, we'll start to put some landscape on there. Okay, amazing, friend. Now, in this painting, what I want it to look like, I really want it to look like we're like sitting in the grass. So I want to make these nice long grass pieces with some land where we're kind of like looking through the reeds. And we're going to be looking through the reeds at a sun on the horizon. So what I want to do is I want to make my sun first and then create the landscape around it. And depending on how big of a brush you're using, I'll show you what I do. So I'm just gonna rinse this guy. I got a rogue hair on my brush, so let's see here. Oh man. All right, there, just a little finessing. We're good. So if I want my sun to be double the size of my brush-ish, using the 3/4 inch brush will give me about a 1.5 inch size sun, which I think is probably a good size. You can also use your 1/2 inch flathead brush too, and it'll give it about a 1 inch size. So depending on how big you want your sun to be, it's all good. You can decide on that. But basically what I do is with my flathead brush, I will put it straight, how do I say that? Okay, so I'll put it straight on the canvas so that whole bristle is there. And as I turn my brush in a circle, it's very loosely saying I try to keep that bottom bristle in the center as much as possible. So I kind of try and follow around by keeping that bristle secure in the middle. It's not always possible. Sometimes it moves, but just having that idea really helps to get around and make a nice little sun, okay? So I'm going to put a little white with a little mixture of yellow in it. And you don't have to have a lot of paint, but you have to have enough that's going to like get around in a circle. So don't take big scoops, just take a little bit, kind of get it in those bristles, and pat your brush on your on your palette so that it really moves the paint around. So I don't have like a big full brush full of paint, but there's enough on there where I feel confident that it should get around in a circle. So if I want okay, so I'm gonna put it just about if this is the halfway point, I'm gonna hop down about 1 inch, push and Now I didn't have enough paint on my brush, but I didn't want to stop. So now I at least have a decent circle on there to follow along. And the name of the game is we try our best to make it look like a circle, but the chances of it being a perfect circle are pretty slim. So once you see that it looks like a pretty good circle, that's a good opportunity to just stop and let it dry and then fix up those edges later on. The more we work on any kind of sun or circles or anything like that, the bigger they get and the more opportunity we have to make it not very circular. It turns into ovals, it turns into like weird wonky bits, and this is pretty circular, so I'm just gonna stop here. My edges aren't perfect, but it's good enough for now, and I can let that dry and work on it once it's dry again, okay? So I'm gonna give my brush a rinse, and I'm just gonna decide where my land is down under here before I put any grass on. So I'm gonna grab my brush, grab a little bit of black, and just like make a little wiggly line down here and fill this in with black. There's always going to be like a bottom where it's pretty black, especially in the silhouetted paintings. And once I have that colored in, there's two ways we can see our brushes. So we can have our brushes really nice and smooth. We can flatten them out, right? And with a nice flat brush, I can generally start inside this black area and kind of pull up and make nice lines of grass, okay? And the reason why that works for me is because I'm letting my brush be directly on the canvas, just like we did our sun. And as I'm pulling up, the brush drags behind. So the last part that hits the canvas is the bottom bristle down here. So as I'm pulling up, 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 I'm dragging that brush and I kind of lift and fling off the canvas. A thing that I see a lot of people do is they dive in head first. So I'll show you the difference. If I dive in head first, it makes a really big fat bristle. And then it ends with a kind of squared off top. So let that last little bristle drag up and off the canvas, and that's gonna get you some nice grassies. Another way to do it is if you're grabbing your paint, instead of smoothing your brush out, you can kind of dive in and get your bristles kind of separated. So I'm like tapping on my palette, and now the bristles on my brush, they're a little bit more separated at the top. They have a little bit more space in between them. So I can take my brush and gently kind of pull up, and those separated bristles are gonna make it look like there's some little grassies on there. Dive in. So this is a nice base where we can get a nice base where like there's some fuzzy grass at the bottom. You know, that filler grass, the stuff that we like to sit in. And then we're gonna surround our sun with all sorts of long, tall grass. Okay, so those are two different ways with a big old brush that you can make your grassies, and it's all good. So what I suggest right now, make your base, get your bristles separated before you make any long grasses, and get in there and make a few fluffy littler pieces of grass. And you can see now we don't have that stark line there. We've pulled in enough grass to make it look nice and fluffy, like it's coming straight out of the ground. We really lost that hard piece of land that we made in the first place. And you know, I'm pulling my brush side to side, up and down, like upwards, and then I pull some grasses over diagonally. And it's really pretty, look. Cute grassies. All right, so finish that up. We're gonna let our sun dry, and I'm just gonna give my sunshine a little bit more loving before I add all the other grassy stuff on there. Fantastic work, my friend. Okay, so it's time to give our sun a little extra love. If you love what your sun looks like, you should totally leave it alone. Do not touch it. But for me, I can see, so if you check it out, you can see it's a little fuzzy around the edges, and I don't love that. I kind of want it to be a little bit more smooth, and I can still see some of the pink popping out the background. Not that I don't hate it, but I am gonna just give my sunshine a little extra coat of paint to make it just a little a little better. So using my smaller brush, I'm gonna make that little mixture so I have some white with a little yellow in it. And just with like really, really light, it's like such a light yellow. It's barely even distinguishable to be a yellow, but mostly white here. And I just kind of drag the side of my brush along the edge of my sun, and it's just smoothing out those edges so nicely. And then now my sun has a nice little second coat of paint, looking a lot nicer now. Oh, I did it. I made it bigger. One fine swoop at a time. Don't let the sun get big on me. Don't let the sun. I just can't stop painting. It's everything in me. Now I just gotta stop. Can't stop, won't stop, just won't stop. All right, so once that's done, the prerogative of our painting tonight is, like I said, I want to have these nice tall grasses, and I want to make a couple like decent sized pieces of grass so that I can have one or two birds that live in the painting. And using the big brush was cool. You can also use the medium flathead brush for this. So, if I take my bristles and I kind of smoosh them together. So I'm taking my fingers and I kind of smoosh them. I can take a little water and really flatten out my brush here. I always suggest start small. So get the hang of like making a few like smaller pieces of grass. And that like nice little flow that like you get in the train of, making nice pieces. And as you get more confident, you can start to make a little bit longer pieces of grass and higher pieces of grass. And really focusing on getting these nice meadowy grassies. And I'm going to put one right in front of my sun to really make it look like I'm sitting down in the grass. Now, it's going to be up to you how much you want to do this. Like if you want it to be like really, really filled up or a little bit more sparse. Either way is all good. But we need a spot for a bird to live. So this long piece here kind of works. We could use this piece here. I think I'm going to just put one. So grab a little water, really like flatten out, make sure my brush has a decent amount of like liquidy black on it. And big breath. Whoa, that was a big grass. I'm going to put my bird on that. I'm going to put my bird on that big, big piece of grass. Now, grassy knolls don't only just have grass. Some of these grassy pieces are like weeds and they have little flowers on top. So I can take just the like little corner of my brush, just this little corner here. And, on some of the like shorter ones, I can do a couple little taps at the tops to make them look like they have some flowering going on, whatever it might be. I'm just take that tiny little corner of my brush and really, really, really gently tap. I can also make them look like they're cattails or something. You can add some longer leaf style pieces as well. So what I do is I'll choose whatever piece has like a little flower on top. So this line here, and I start on the line, but I kind of push my brush, I give it a little push, and then I release and I let that drag back, and I get these nice little leaves on the side. Now I don't want to do that to every single one. It's like not what it's about, but having a few in there definitely changes the vibe of the grass for sure. I think that's good. All right, it's coming together. Now, last but not least, we are gonna throw down a bird on this grassy piece here. And just a little bird, just a little guy. And birds generally, especially, it doesn't, there's lots of different kinds of birds, but I always think of like a little chickadee or like sparrows, kind of that style bird. A nice, just like little bird that kind of like flies through the fields and finds their little home. And we can keep it really, really simple to start. So I just use very simple shapes to create my silhouetted birds. So I have my medium flathead brush here. I'm going to grab a little bit of that paint, black paint. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an egg shape on my canvas here. And I'm just going to have the egg just graze that piece of grass there. So check it out. It's kind of pointed up. I'm going to pull down and over. And then I have a nice little head at the top. And I'm just grazing that piece of grass there. Right? Pretty simple, pretty simple. Now, this bird probably has some wings and a tail. So what I can do is just kind of decide where that back tail is going to be. So I'm going to pull down about right here. And we can give it like a little short tail, or we can give it a little fan tail at the bottom. We can even have a little like a little wing kind of popping out the edge here. And all we really need now is a beak. So I feel, I'm just gonna smooth out my lines a little bit here. If you flatten your brush really, really good, you can kind of just like stamp the beak on. So I'm flattening my brush and my palette. I'm really pulling and dragging and flattening. And I'm just using a little tip of my brush, but I'm just gonna pop. Make a little beak there. And now I have this little adorable silhouetted bird basking in the sun. And you don't have to just do one bird. You know what? Just for the heck of it, we'll do one more bird, okay? And I'm gonna put it, so I have this big grass here. I'm gonna just make this a little bit more significant. And I'm gonna do the bird going in the opposite direction. So you don't have to see where their feet are. Birds kind of like, they hang off of stuff randomly. We don't have to see their feet. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this bird right here, and I'm just gonna make that little egg shape again. And you're more than welcome to use like a liner brush if you're more comfortable with that, like using the the flathead might be a little bit trying. So like, if you don't want to use this brush, you don't have to, but I feel like it's pretty easy. So we have his little egg-shaped body here. And let's get the tail going right here. We'll just give it a little back tail. With that little tiny beak, just using that corner bit. And maybe a wing. Popping out like it's landing. Right? All right, now we have a couple little birds there. So cute, so adorable. And there you go. You have some beautiful silhouetted birds in a sunsetty, sunrisey situation, however you want to see it. If you want to make it a little bit more magical, you can always take the back end of one of your smaller brushes here. So if you have the flat part, or sorry, the wooden end of your paintbrush handle, and I dip it in some white and add a couple little stars in the mix. End of the day stars. Just starting to peek their little heads out, or just leaving the day. And there you go, my friend. Now, if you, let me change it up here. So, if you got through this whole thing, I hope you enjoyed. We can make such beautiful little pieces in such a short period of time, and you don't need to spend all sorts of money. So I hope this kind of like, I hope you found a little sweet spot today. Grass can be really trying, so this is a perfect opportunity to just practice. Just practice those little swoops and little schwips that we put on our painting. And when you find that flow, oh man, it feels so, so good. So if you decided to do this painting today, I would love, 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 love it if you go to the Julie's Paint Party public Facebook group. We have a group going on in there. Post a little picture. Just do like a little, look what I made. And if you don't want to do that, that's fine. You can just send it to me. Send me an email. You can find all my information on my website, juliespaintparty.com. And I really hope that you decide to show me what you made, because I love, love, love seeing everybody's creations. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a good one. Bye.